thank you all so much for joining us for the Advisor Video Academy. And I know that you are probably like me and you know the power of networking. And so as I network in the financial services community, I'm also networking with folks in the marketing world who serve that community. And that is how I met Chrissy. And it must have been like 6 months ago. And on one of our first conversations, we were talking about her concept of growth sprints. And as soon as she introduced me to it, I thought, like, this is something that not only would help our business, but it would help all of our clients' businesses, which is why we invited Chrissy and Shandra here to the Advisor Video Academy to speak to you. And also you're getting the benefit of some content they're going to share with you on your LinkedIn profile. So pay close attention to that because this is easy to do, easy to adopt. So we're so excited that all of you joined us today. And we will send this out as a recording after if you want to share it with anyone. As you probably know, I'm Laura Garfield, co-founder of Idea Decanter, joined by Sharon Gatula, also co-founder of Idea Decanter. We've got our executive producer, Tracy Shaw, on the line. We have our head of partnerships and AVA marketing, Amon Boyd, on the line. So let's kick this off. Chrissy and Shandra, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
It's great to be here. Well, thank you all for coming and hearing us today. It's been like I said to Laura, we were talking about this in January and we said June, and then we thought we had a long runway and we blinked and now we're here. So a little background about the Congruence agency. Shandra and I have been working with each other indirectly for, gosh, nearly 7 or so years. And then we just say that the universe brought us together in some very interesting ways. We were brought together by a shared mentor and then eventually had the opportunity to acquire his business. So that is how you see us today with the Congruence agency. And what we really identified early on was that we really thought about growth a little bit differently, which is what a lot of people say. But we thought about it differently in the space of when you have sales teams and marketing teams, there's a gap. Generally, they don't share the same goals. They don't necessarily function the same way or speak the same way. And that's generally where you lose some of the traction and the ROI on the activities that happen between sales and marketing. And so we decided to really think about what are the things that we believe are true for any company. And that is what we believe is the congruence mindset. So marketing starts far before you ever get to the marketing space. And it is alignment. Do you have the right people in the right seats? And if you don't, then your ROI is not as strong when you're sharing that message out to your audience. Do you have a sturdy process and systems that are in place to support you as you grow? Because a lot of companies, they grow themselves to a spot where they are shaking, their structure shakes, and they end up losing their traction. And so we really looked at how do we share the end goal between sales and marketing? And that was really looking at, okay, if marketing activities are connected to brand awareness, that creation, prospecting and bringing people in the doors, and retention, keeping the clients that you've worked so hard to gain, then those are quality activities that should be attached to everything that we do. And that really allows the conversation between sales and marketing to flow really freely and to share that end goal to say, hey, marketing, we're gonna have a goal of 14 million this year. What activities can we do to get there and what collateral can you help us build? For our clients, when we've put this in place, we've seen an average of tripling ROI. So it's been really exciting. We've also deployed these same activities in our business and have seen the same results. So that's something that's really exciting when we start to see clients hit that spot that they're getting traction and are moving into the growth phase. We know that they're in for a really exciting ride. And the equation that we look at is heart of the brand. Laura, I've shared this with you a few different times. And I don't know if you guys have spent much time looking at financial services in general. There was a study done by Marshberry several years ago where they took a collection of 50 different financial services companies, all of the copy from their website, and they put it into a collection. And they asked the ownership to select which one they belonged to. And there was only 4% of the group that could actually pick out their own company. And what that points out is that it's stunning. Yeah. And when you say that, we get laughs from everyone in the financial company industry because we all know that's true. Many of us have the same language. It's one of those fields where it's harder to be a little bit more honest with who you are, to show all the different sides of yourselves when you're talking about numbers. And so we created this concept called Heart of the Brand. Heart of the Brand is the DNA of your organization. And the reason this came up was we were going through marketing and strategy sessions with clients. And I kept thinking, but where's the human in it? Where do we find that? And we were working with a company in Colorado. They're a wonderful example of it. They have beautiful people in their organization. They're tremendously funny. And so I said, the thing that's missing for you all is the heart of the brand. And that was a great example. They had these large stuffed bananas in their offices, every office. It was a big, like a stuffed animal, like a child would have. And I said, have you posted this yet? And they said, well, no, that's embarrassing. And I thought, no, that's the heartbeat of your business. Humor is part of how you all function together. And so that's an example of something that they shared. Another thing that was really strong in that organization is they traveled quite often, and they had a cutout of Peyton Manning that they would take with them. Someone had to take the cutout with them to any of the conferences that they went to. They put it in their suitcase, they brought them to the conference, and they would unfold Peyton Manning and have him at their events. And so they would share pictures with him. And it was just some of the fun activity that made their people who they are. It shows their values, the heartbeat of what their business is about and who they serve, but also what does the office look like? It's so interesting because, like Shandra said, she's interested in seeing what everyone's backgrounds look like when you hop on the screen on Zoom. And it's the same for others. They really want to understand how we all tick. And that creates a sense of trust and understanding so that they can start to dig into how do you function and what's the true specialty that you have.
I do think that, like, sorry to interrupt you, Chrissy, but I do think we see the exact same thing with clients all the time, that they get the most traction on those personal details. I mean, the stuffed bananas is one thing, the people who are sharing about their pets and getting great traction about that. And it does feel scary to step out and really share the personal side of you, be funny, because you don't see it in your space. In the financial advisor space, people just aren't getting real very often, and it can be such a great differentiator. And Chrissy, to your point, Sharon was just sharing with me some Washington Post, an article that was just recently posted in the Washington Post about the background and the reality and the importance behind it. Sharon, I'll let you weigh in on that.
Yeah, so it was really interesting. It was in my Toastmasters group that they brought this up, and what this Washington Post article says, they did a research over 20,000 people, and if you are in sales or if or any sort of public facing content on Zoom, it is actually better for you to have your actual real background behind you. Whenever you're with an artificial background, it makes people feel like you're hiding something, and it's better to have a blank wall than a fake background. Or it's even better if you can just add some personality like Laura does so well with her background, which I know she very specifically constructed to be beautiful and reflect herself. Yeah, you got a puzzle. By adding those little tidbits of your personality to your background, you are automatically creating one more step in that trust cycle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting because it's a very tailored industry. People are known for their smarts and how they deal with others. And so it is hard to step into that space and make that a comfort zone, but it immediately sets you apart. And something for those that are more of a generalist, I had someone ask this the other day, I serve pre-retirees and high net worth, but beyond that, I don't have a dedicated specialty. And so we challenged him to look at, okay, so what are your core values then? If you're thinking about the people that you want to do business with, if you're sharing that part of yourself, you're naturally going to attract those people to your business. And it will beyond the retirees. And he said, everyone serves retirees and people of that nature. And I thought, this is a great spot for you to really share of yourself and talk about the things that are interesting to you. For one of these producers, it was helping people is one of his biggest internal motivators. and the other is health. And so he started speaking about that and immediately saw a lift in the things that he was sharing. And it's interesting because when you do a book of business review and you look back at what you've grown, there's a lot of just common denominators that you'll find once you start doing that. So as we think about the equation and how we get to rapid growth, in our agency, we think about it as first you go for brand awareness so that people understand who you are, what you're doing, and they're used to seeing you and consuming your information. And then secondarily, creating that true specialty so that they understand what it is that you're offering people. And then that last step towards growth is the growth sprints. And this is one of our most popular things that we offer as a service. Our clients enjoy this. It's a little bit of a training period for them to really get used to the flow of it. But once they have it, they turn everything into a growth sprint. So that's exciting. And what this is it's a 90-day campaign, which is great. Most people, they will hear of a year-long campaign and they're immediately tired. So for those sales folks that like to have something that's shorter in nature, it's very focused. So there's one goal in mind. If it's numbers based, that's the goal. If it's a recruiting effort, we're looking at how many people are we recruiting, and we're really looking at that very specific goal. And this is tied to a captive audience, and it can be as small as 30 prospects. It could be as large as we've had 300 to 500 people as well. But you're looking at a true list of prospects where you've looked at them, they fit into your profile, the right fit that you could serve. And then you have a name for them, their organization, the accurate address, the phone number, all of their contact information. So these aren't people that you're just finding out on the internet. They are someone that you truly have a connection to or could have a connection to based on their content. And then we're building out specialized assets. And when we're building those, the reason that we can do that and the reason we can have direct language that suits them is that we do have that captive audience. We're speaking directly to this group. And we're able to build those specifically for them. So an example that we have here on the screen is NSCA. It was a contractors association, and they were in the technology realm. And so we could speak very specifically to that group and the things that they're seeing every day in their market, and building either emails or if it's a mail campaign, a collection of compound assets to send out and deploy, and specifically measure how each one does. So you'll see that on the screen as well. Each one of these dates is sending out a specific asset and then looking at the ROI based on that. And people really enjoy this because you can alter the language. If there's maybe an asset that doesn't get the same response that the rest of the campaign did, the next time we do that, we'll take that asset out, plug something else in. So let's say it's a large retiree group, and we, instead of having an in-person activity, we had a webinar and we saw those numbers dip. The next time we would decide we're going to send out an invitation that is hard copy or has a QR code, and we're going to offer them an in-person activity so that they can come and speak with us in person, because that caters better to that audience. Where if you have a younger group or someone that's more tech savvy, they're going to enjoy some of those higher technology pieces. And that's how we just refine and repeat that activity based on when you have time in your funnel and in your flow. We did this for a group, a financial firm. And the really cool thing about these guys, we did this for 3 solid quarters. And they saw their click-through rates increase by 448%, which is wild. And then their engagement rates through social, through this campaign, went up by 972% in just 3 quarters. And those activities ended up creating about $14 million additional income for their business. Any questions or things that you'd like to throw in there, Shandra, about the sprint activities that we do?
I just want to touch on the content creation piece that kind of aligns side by side with what you're talking about. So for this campaign, whether it's a follow-up activity or it's something that's happening, activities that are happening alongside these growth sprint activities, social media content is often a big key piece of that. And we've just recently had a talk with a client who said, I don't know, I don't really see a lot happening on social media. That's not really a big thing for me. I've never had anybody call me from social media. And when we're talking about this industry and, specifically, that's a common thing to hear. It's not often that you're going to have somebody call up your company and say, hey, I saw, an ad on social media for you, or I saw a post and it just really made me want to call you. That's not really the key activity that we're hoping people will take. Often it's a support activity to these sprints or to other marketing and sales activities. And so I'm going to jump into some deployable actions that you can put into effect right now to start creating content. And oftentimes when we talk about creating content, the first response is, I don't have time for creating content. I have no idea what to create. I don't have a person for that. I don't have a marketing team. I don't even know what I would write or whatever. So I'm going to actually share with you what we do inside our organization, because as marketers, it's kind of a catch-22. We love creating content for our clients and helping them grow, but we don't have our own internal team for ourselves that has time to help us do the same. So two things to think about that are really important and key here. Okay, one is it's often a gut instinct to go out the door and talk about yourself or your organization. What is our process? What are our values? How are we different than other organizations? And while there is a time and place for those activities inside the sales and marketing cycle, when you're creating content, the first and most important thing is providing value to your end audience. So think about the sharing of content or the creation of content that makes that end audience say, wow, that was really helpful to me. I'm interested in getting more helpful stuff from this company. Or when they are thinking about a need that they have or a step that they want to take, who's going to come into their mind? It's likely going to be, among the slew of possibilities, someone that has been memorable to them or has provided value to them already. So this is the process we actually use inside our company for content creation each month. So the last Friday of every month, and this touches on how to repurpose and maximize everything that you're creating or have created in the past. So every Friday, or the last Friday of every month, I write a newsletter, or sometimes Chrissy and I do it together. Chrissy does it. And I actually use the LinkedIn platform. So LinkedIn has a beautiful newsletter platform. You can go in there and create newsletters and post them. You can create a captive audience that subscribes to it, so they'll get a notification when your newsletter goes out. And it's really pretty robust as far as what you're able to create. You can add video, you can add links, you can add anything you want, pictures, text, anything. So I create a newsletter, pretty long form. I put in there whatever I want with the purpose of providing value. And then I take that newsletter and I break it up into social media posts, typically 4 to 6 posts for the following month. The first one, super easy. It's literally a post sharing that newsletter as a content piece on all of my platforms. The rest of them are, I just maybe pull key takeaways from that newsletter, add a photo to it that I pull from a stock photo site, and add a little blurb or a thought of my own. That becomes the post. Those same key takeaways become tweets, become a blog. And then we take turns every month creating a video piece, which doesn't have to be post-production quality. It can be, but typically we're just taking your phone and saying, hey guys, we just recently talked about X, Y, and Z. I shared it in a newsletter and I just wanted to share it with you today. If you have questions or if we can help you, in that topic, feel free to give us a call. Share it as a post, share it as a blog. So that's an example of how you can take one simple piece. It takes me about 2 hours once a month to create all of the content for the following month. And then I just use either the platforms themselves or a free software like Hootsuite to schedule all of that content for when I want it to go out for the following month. Now in 2 hours, we've created regular content for the entire month, providing value to our audience, and now we're hands off. I don't have to think about it. It's going out, mission accomplished. And then in addition to that, we obviously don't want to be putting all this beautiful content out to no one. So the next step would be, how do we optimize? In most cases, it's going to be, especially in this industry, LinkedIn. That's going to be a standout platform for most organizations in this industry. And so there's a couple of things that you can do to start gaining a little bit more traction there. And I'm going to walk you through some of those. So first and foremost, thank you. So first and foremost, let's just talk about your profile on LinkedIn. A lot of people went in there at some point in the last 10, maybe 15, 20 years and slapped together whatever they could find, picked one of the stock photos for your banner, took, a picture that you screenshotted from a picnic that you attended in a backyard barbecue, and called it good. Put a few things in your bio, put your comment, you're done. You have to remember when somebody's looking at a piece of content that goes out, or they're doing a search specifically for someone like you, first thing that they're going to see, and oftentimes the only thing they're going to look at, is your photo, your banner, and the tagline underneath it. So if you only have that first 15 seconds to possibly capture and hold someone's attention, just make those really good. Put a custom banner up if your company has one, or create one using something free like Canva, which is really, really easy, and just swap out your banner. 2, you've got a professional headshot, put it in there, or do your best, MacGyver work on creating what looks like a professional headshot for that space. And then 3rd, when you're looking at that, what most people put in as, their job title, there's a lot of other things you can put in that space. So think of things like bright spots or achievements in your career, or within your company. So instead of putting, Shandra Redwine, marketing specialist, I could put in there, achieving 3 times in 12 months, or, top sales agent in Michigan, or whatever. That's not me. I'm not a top sales agent in Michigan, but something like that, or something that is about what you do and who you serve. So in my case, I might put something like, Shandra Redwine, helping companies grow creative strategies, or something like that. So right out of the gate, just like you would, above the fold on your website, your audience knows who you are, what you do, how it serves them, and why they care. Because often that's the split-second decision between, am I going to keep looking at this or not? And then 2 more really super easy things you can do to start creating and sharing content. So maybe this is alongside of what we just talked about, how to create, more robust content campaigns. Maybe it's only this, but you can just share posts. So if your company is creating posts, just share them along with a blurb of your own, maybe some hashtags, and hit post. It takes 60 seconds and you're done. Do that twice a week and you're creating consistent content, which is going to have you showing up in front of more faces. And then secondly, whether your company does or does not put out posts, you can do this same thing with other things in the industry. So your favorite influencers, groups, your colleagues, mentors, industry publications, find their content, share it, share your own blurb, add a link, add some hashtags, do that on a regular basis. You're going to really knock it out of the park if you're doing this alongside part of the brand content like Chrissy was talking about, and some of those personalized posts that you're creating every single month. If you were to do all of those things and optimize your profile, you quite literally have the possibility of showing up in front of thousands or tens of thousands, more people every single month.
Shandra, I really think it's a great idea for everyone to set the expectation that your LinkedIn profile needs a review every 6 months or so.
Yes,
maybe
absolutely.
Beginning of the year. And if you have a slow summer slump, just give it a little bit of time. I find that when I look at mine, I'm like, oh, this just needs a little tweaking and this needs a little tweaking. It's always a good idea to make sure your profile is keeping up with, what your business goals are and who your audience is.
Yeah, and absolutely. I would say embrace your aging. When you look at some LinkedIn profiles and it's like 20 years ago, you're like, that can't be the right guy.
Yes. Absolutely. Fresh photos are really important. And I think here's a few others that I went about this the same way on my own LinkedIn to try and understand how to build followership, because I wanted to test that and just understand. We spend a lot of time in algorithms and try and test the nature of the platforms as well. And this was a space where there's a function in your LinkedIn account where you can change your profile to creator mode. If you're in creator mode, you'll see some people right underneath their photo will have something that says talks about, and you can talk about, I think, up to 5 different topics that you speak about frequently, and it allows you to understand who's following you. So if you've ever been on LinkedIn and you've wondered what's follow versus connect, a lot of times you'll see people following you before they send you the inevitable message on LinkedIn. And the way that this is helpful, at least for me, is I like to measure, I like to refine. I started sending things out, posting, sharing third-party posts, and just my thoughts on what those were, and giving people a feel for my flavor and just how I do business. And then I was able to watch and see as that number was growing, and my personal, just as my personal platform was growing, my goal was 1,000 followers. Once I hit 1,000 followers, I just want to understand how to get to that point. And so I was watching each week as I was sharing. And then again, as Shandra mentioned, the newsletter, and then adding in some of the posts from our clients, I was really looking at how that network spreads. And specifically on LinkedIn, the more that you're sharing from someone else and they're seeing you liking, engaging, or commenting on your activities, the more you're bringing other people's networks into your own. So a lot of people don't necessarily know how that flows. And specifically on LinkedIn, if you're seeing a like from someone else, their network is seeing that too. So that's a really important part. It might feel like crickets for a while, and you might really feel like you're putting yourself out there. But that creator mode and that followership is really helpful to understand and just kind of give yourself the pat on the back that it is working. And as you're creating that followership, I have had many people stop me in person to say, I follow you on LinkedIn. It's really exciting to see what you're posting. You're inspiring. And, you know, most of the time I'm not used to that kind of activity, but it just showed that it was effective and people were seeing it.
I know we're getting close to the bottom of the hour, so let's make sure we have you share about building a mini growth sprint.
Perfect. So this is something that you can take on your own. I touched on a growth sprint before. This is something that I would encourage you to just create and just test it. Do it. I would say first try the 60-day mark. If there's an event, if there's an activity that you have coming up, build a before, during, and after. So before that event or that activity, what can you do? What can you share about it? Let's say it's a conference. Hey, I'm going to be seeing everybody in 2 weeks, and I'm really excited to talk to you about whatever the conference might be. Share some pictures of yourself. Send out an email after that to the folks that you've gone out and you've looked at the list of who's going to be attending. Make sure to send those to them, and then make sure that you're following up. One of the biggest pieces of this is following up. And I would say if you have a phone number, be sure to use it. Not enough people are doing that in today's era. And it does make a difference. That's where the company I shared with you about the 14 million increase in their income, that was from adding a caller onto their team and making sure that they were following up on the activities that they were doing. So for yourself, make it reasonable. Maybe it's 30 people on your list, and maybe you start with 3 activities, some sort of a mailer or an email, and then some sort of phone call, but then measure it over the next 60 days and see how many people you've converted. Once you've gotten to a place that you're comfortable with this, add different things in so that you have a really rich campaign to share with others, and then rinse and repeat. Take out the things that didn't work well and add in others. It takes some trial and error, but it's also one of those that can help you understand where you need training and development. It will help you to build your materials, and it will also help you to refine your audience. And I would say the other piece that I think is really important in a sprint like this is getting a beautiful lifetime video. That's one that we haven't talked about yet. And I know Laura's team is beautiful at this. There's an endless use for that. So if you're doing even a 2 to 3 minute video that you can break into pieces and use throughout those posts, if you're not skilled or comfortable on your own doing it, they're the best group to go to. You need someone that's professional and knows how to do this in order to make you feel comfortable and confident to post those things. So you can do the same that we talked about, breaking up a newsletter, as you can with a video as well, and put that in multiple different posts. Any questions on that one?
We like to call those short videos for post snackables.
Snackable, I love that. That's great. All right, so then the next piece that we're going to share with everyone is an offer that we have. This is something we've not offered before, and it's a one-time for this group. The way that we work with clients is we generally do a full session on the front end of their contracts and their work. What we're looking to do here is make that into a small package that is a do-it-yourself package. So this is for someone that maybe is busy throughout their career. They still want some guidance and understanding of how to do this on their own, but this allows you to dip your toe in the water, have a 12-month plan after we go through the strategy meeting. Then we're really looking at how do you tick? What's your heart of the brand? How do we talk about your specialty? And then how do we create growth for you? And we build that into a 12-month plan that has posts associated with it. We help to train you on how to send those, when to send them, and how to deploy. And then we have quarterly check-ins. So this is something that generally is a $7,500 offering. We're bumping that down to $5,000. You have a full year's plan, check-ins, and some deliverables, a collection of deliverables to go with it. So if you're interested, feel free to reach out to us. There's easy ways to get started and just even see if we're a fit. That's the most important thing. We want to make sure that we're a good partner for whoever we're working with.
Well, Chrissy and Shandra, thank you so much for sharing your insight. We go to events all the time, and I just started building a plan in my head based on some of your advice. And I'm inspired to go back and take a closer look at my own LinkedIn profile. I hope everybody on this call does exactly the same thing. We also want to invite you to the next Advisor Video Academy. Mark your calendars. It's Wednesday, June 12th. And that is featuring Erin Botsford of the Advisor Authority. And
I think it's July 12th. I'm sorry.
Oh, July 12th. That was me. And she will, it is almost, yeah, we're way past July 12th, same bat time, same bat place. And she is going to be talking about those high net worth clients. Once you get their attention, what you need to say to kind of close the deal. So I hope you'll join us for that.